Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts by taking us to an unexplored northern region of South Korea, as we see a bunch of explorers gathered around. We see a man that looks a bit nervous, and someone else approaches him, asking if this is his first time on an expedition. He says that he's been to gates and dungeons, but this is his first time in an unexplored area, which is why he's a bit nervous, and he thanks him for the drink. The dude laughs, saying that he better prepare himself mentally, as these types of places are left unexplored for hundreds of years, so they're bound to be filled with monsters, and there may even be some ancient ones. The dude says that their expedition team leader is from the famous esteemed Marshall Lee clan. He heard that he's the patriarch's brother, which means he must be pretty strong. The guy who gave him drinks says that he might be a bit confused because he's an illegitimate son. He's so weak that he was actually banished from the clan. We are introduced to the Marshall Lee clan's 9th illegitimate child, named Lee Chul. The dude says not only is he not talented, he has no tenacity either, because he's only a 7th rank martial artist and old as hell. They ask how they're meant to depend on someone like him, and then someone walks in front of Chul, saying that they should get moving again, and glares down at him. Chul looks up at the dude, and then sighs, saying alright. Almost as if he's being forced into this mission, he explains that the Shadow Sword Squad are a direct affiliate squad of the patriarch of the Marshall Lee clan, and they're supposed to be protecting him, but something feels off, and he doesn't have a good feeling about this mission at all. There was once a time where he had hopes and dreams too. The time when he first realized the weight of being a part of the Marshall Lee clan was when he was chosen by the best ranked weapon at the steel selection ritual, and he thought to himself that if he continued to gain acknowledgement and tried his best, that he one day would be recognized. Of course, this did not happen. The doctor showed him his mana paths, saying that he's never seen them like this before, and he's not suited to learn magic, and martial arts will be super unstable if he tried practicing them. And for him to reach the 9th rank would be nothing short of a miracle. We see the butler telling the leader of the Lee clan all of this, and he looks out the window, and sighs. Chul continues, saying that once everybody learned about his condition, they dismissed what happened at the steel selection ritual as a mere coincidence or mistake. And so he gave it his all and proved the doctor wrong. He received the 7th rank at 25 years old, and he was genuinely happy, even if his siblings had reached that rank as minors. Don't tell Drake about them. Chul says that joy did not last long, since he was cast out of his clan at the age of 30, and if it were not for his oldest brother, he might have left the household as a corpse instead. He had been on the run ever since, and it's already been 10 years. A time of chaos had descended upon them all, and bro was straight homeless. We see some newspapers flying off as Chul continues explaining how the unexplored regions continue to expand, and the monster invasions became more frequent. One of the papers smacks him straight in the face. As he pulls it off his face, he looks down at it, and sees that the sword saint, Lee Taishan, his father who was the pinnacle of martial arts, and the patriarch of the clan, had passed away. Then he was approached by some men that were the Shadow Sword Squad, and Chul asks how they found him. They tell him that they have a decree for him, and he realizes they're just going to ignore his question. And Chul says his bloodline will never let him go, and that this is an order from the new patriarch, Gun Song, which is his 3rd brother. He wonders about his older brother, asking where he's at, and if this is why he was sent to the unexplored regions. They tell Chul they'll see him in an hour, but he tells them to wait, asking what happened to his eldest brother. He asks what is the point in ordering him to investigate the unexplored region, when he hasn't even wielded the sword in 10 years, and he's only a 7th rank martial artist. They ask if he's refusing to carry out his orders then, and Chul says doing so would, of course, mean death, so he says he'll do it. As they leave him, Chul sits there, full of anger that they are treating him like this, wondering what happened to his brother, and why they're treating him like shit still. Jumping back to the present, we see the guy who is nervous get surprised by something, as there is an abandoned building in the middle of the forest. He asks why it's here of all places, and it's pretty well preserved, all things considered. The Shadow Sword Squad tell Chul they're going to be heading in, and as they all do so, they ask what the hell that is, as they see a giant monster skull on the ground. They say it must be an ancient monster's corpse, and the Shadow Sword Squad says they've found it, and the leader tells the rest to begin, as they all start flying forward. The dude who was nervous gets his head cut off before he can even finish asking, "Begin what?" Chul turns, surprised, and he and the other man start yelling, asking what they are doing, and the Shadow Sword Squad says that surely they all knew that they were dead from the start, and that they should consider themselves honored to be used for the clan's goodwill. Right before he can stab the other dude, a sword goes through the back of his chest, as we see Chul was the one who did it, and he asks who is behind this. The Shadow Sword Squad folds under zero pressure, saying that it was their liege, and they were ordered to bring all of them here, and to kill them as cleanly as possible. As he shatters the sword with his bare hands, his wound begins to heal itself. He says that they were only ordered to kill them cleanly if they didn't resist. Chul wonders how his wound is closing, but the other dude misreads the situation, coming in with an attack, only for him to get absolutely cut in half, and Chul nearly avoids death as well. They start laughing at him, saying that he is pathetic, and they thought he would be stronger than this. As they start charging at him, they say, considering that half of his blood is still part of the Li clan. He sure is a disappointment, as they knee him in the chest. They send him flying backwards, and he shatters everything in his path until he slams into the giant skeleton, coughing up blood. He grits his teeth, saying that he refuses to die a dog's death like this, and he needs to find a weapon. He starts looking around until he spots one in the skull of the giant monster. He says if it was powerful enough to slay that beast, then it should be fine, even if it's been here for a while. He reaches onto it, and says that he did it only to pull it out, surprised that the blade begins dissolving into a black mist in front of his eyes, and he asks why. The Shadow Sword Squad member, now standing right behind him, says that he didn't imagine that someone of the Li clan could be so damn pathetic, and he'll send him off like a Li at the very least. As he slices his back open, Chul says that the heavens are so cruel, and that he was really just going to die like this, and he spent his entire life struggling and running, experiencing nothing but failure. If only he got one more chance at life. Of course, plot convenience, and the fact that this is the start of the series, we know what's going to happen. Everything fades to black, but then, we hear his father's voice, asking about his mother, who is named Yojung, and the butler says that it was too late when they found her. Chul just wonders how his father is here, since he's already gone, and we are formally introduced to Taishan for the first time. Chul says that he looks pretty young, and so does butler Choi as well. Coincidentally, Taishan gives him the nickname of Young, but I will continue calling him Chul. He starts waving at them, and notices that he has fat little Vienna sausage hands. Double takes by looking at them again, and he's confused about what's going on. Chul wonders what's going on, saying that he should be dead, and says this might be the afterlife or a flashback. Taishan tells butler Choi that just like the other children, he needs to assign him a handmaid and some Shadow Sword Squad members as guards, and have him attend the steel selection ritual with the 8th child. Butler Choi asks if he means right now, since he isn't ready, and the 8th is still a few months older. Taishan thinks about it and looks down at Chul, saying that it shouldn't matter. Much to Chul's surprise, Taishan then says he's taking his leave, as Chul sits there in his crib alone, and lets out a sigh, saying as expected of his father, he hasn't seen him in a while, but his pressure sure is a lot. But he wonders what is going on? As this is all too real to be a flashback. And in regards to that conversation just now, he's not sure if this actually ever happened, and he says he doesn't want to believe it, but if it is true, this means he might have actually regressed to the past. Spoiler alert, he did. It jumps to a few months after returning to the past. It's time for the special day of their clan, the steel selection ritual. The children of the clan display talent corresponding to the weapons that choose them. His father, who was chosen by dozens of blades, became the best swordsman of his generation. His eldest brother, who was selected by swords, tomes, and his staff, was renowned for his magic and swordsmanship, and the participant this time around is him. One of the maids says he dressed so well, and he's in a new environment, but he isn't crying at all either, which shows that he is pretty mature. We are introduced to his personal maid, named Gawa. Gawa says she's sure he will get a good result, and she knows he has a bright future. Chul says his handmaid was like a mother to him, but she was still expelled due to his other brother's hatred. She was the only person who cried for Chul and how they mistreated him. This time he won't let that happen, as he touches her face, then he starts hugging her, saying that he'll protect her at all cost. Someone else enters, saying that the preparations are ready. Gawa looks down at Chul, asking if he's ready to go. It then jumps to butler Choi, telling Taishan that the preparations have been completed. Taishan says it's time to go, as we see Chul, Gawa, and the 8th child, and some maids following behind Taishan and butler Choi up some stairs into a bright light. They make their way out into the stadium, as the crowd goes wild, ready to see what the children get. We hear some people talking, saying that they can see him now, and it's the bastard son who was brought from outside. We see the matriarch of the clan, who is named Baek Hwaeun, as well as the minister, who is named Lee Tai Hong, as well as the first child, Myeongjin, and Gun Song, who Chul has mentioned before. Myeongjin says that he's quite young, and Tai Hong glances over at him. Myeongjin says that he doesn't remember any of them participating in the ritual at this age. Gun Song says that he guesses, but he says that he doesn't know where he rolled in from, but he's intrigued. Taishin yells, saying it's time for the steel selection ritual to begin. He tells the maid to bring Hua to him, and we are introduced to the 8th child as he picks her up. Taishin then reaches into his coat and cuts her finger, causing her to start screaming, as her blood begins to pour out. It starts to have a very bright blue aura on it, as it flies into the mountain of weapons. Some people start pogging out of their gourds, saying that that is the relic rank sword of the utmost prestige, the ivory sword. It's a true masterpiece that hasn't responded to anyone for generations. Taishin then pulls it forward using some Jedi mind tricks, and even does some cool tricks with it in the air before catching it. He says from now on, the ivory sword belongs to Hua. They start congratulating Hwaeun, saying that another talented child has been born to the family, and that it's a true occasion for the clan. She thanks them, and Taishin says it's time to continue. It's now Chul's turn for the ritual. The spectators say that they all have heard the rumors about him being an illegitimate child, and they ask how a bastard is allowed to participate in the ritual. Taishin sits Chul down, and then cuts his finger, but Chul doesn't cry like Hua did, and Taishin pats his head, telling him that he's proud. Chul says the time has come. In the past, he was selected by the Clear Echo, a heaven-ranked sword. He hopes that it's the same this time, as his blood starts to drip down, and comes into contact with the floor. We see a bright blue light. He really hopes that he at least gets that one this time too. We see Tai Hong glancing over to his right, and he says that based on Hwaeun's expression, she seems to be in a pretty bad mood. But he guesses it's only natural because his brother had a hidden son, and that there's going to be a pitiful fate that lies ahead of that child, as it'll be hard to survive here as a bastard. We see this is right before the ritual. An old man steps up. He says that Tai Hong seems to be quite interested in this one. But Tai Hong just looks annoyed, saying that this man is part of the problem. He is the head elder named Chul Yung. Tai Hong greets him, and says that he can't read him, so he needs to make sure he stays alert. Chul Yung asks if that's the child that Taishin brought in. Tai Hong says yes, and that the Shadow Sword Squad was the one who found him. Chul Yung continues, saying that he just doesn't understand what the Patriarch is thinking, and that he is letting a child that nobody knows where he was born from participate in the steel selection ritual. Saying that surely Tai Hong hasn't experienced it himself, that the steel selection ritual is of no use for a bastard child. Tai Hong's hand starts to shake, and he asks him what he just said. Chul Yung apologizes, saying that the story of how he, another bastard child, failed to be selected by a single weapon is just that famous. Because in the end, a bastard child is not of the same bloodline. Chul Yung taps his walking cane into the ground, saying that they must always know their place, because they don't deserve a spot at the same table as them. Tai Hong grits his teeth out of frustration, and yells, telling him to watch himself. But Chul Yung is visibly shocked by something, and Tai Hong realizes this, wondering what's going on. He then looks back forward, as we see Chul's selection ritual is producing a very bright light. Tai Hong asks how this could be possible. He's seeing it with his own 2 eyes, yet he still can't believe it, as it looks as if the entire arena has that bright blue glow to it, to the point that it's almost blinding to every spectator in the audience. He got a couple masterwork weapons, as well as a couple relic level weapons. The crowd says this is impossible, because even weapons that already have owners are responding to him. We see someone holding onto a blade, as it's resonating with Chul too. It's none other than Myeongjin, asking how this could happen, and he turns, telling Gun Song to get a look at this shit, saying that their youngest brother must be an unbelievable talent. Gun Song sees him as competition, saying that it appears so. The spectators say that something must be wrong, because an illegitimate child should not be capable of this. But it is also impossible for the steel selection ritual to be wrong. Taishin tells them all to be quiet, and immediately the entire arena falls deathly silent. He says according to the law of their clan, The weapons that chose Chul should belong to him, but the situation obviously is not that simple, so he will take some suggestions. Tai Hong raises his hand, saying that he has one. Taishan asks what it is. As Tai Hong begins to smirk, he says that even if it's the law of their clan, bestowing all these weapons onto him means going against the meaning behind the ritual, as it is a ritual that must continue on for generations, and that they should allow him to choose a single weapon himself. Taishan snaps his finger, saying that's not bad. As all of the weapons begin to float in front of him, he says that he'll take his suggestion, because it seems fair. He also lifts Chul into the air, and gently sets him down on the ground, in front of all of the weapons, telling him to pick the one which he likes the most. Chul says he doesn't know why this is different from what happened in his past life, but this is good for him, and that he'll make the most out of this entire situation, as he begins crawling forward, determined. He passes by a sword named Frak, the Dragon Slayer, as well as a holy spear that was forged from the body of a saint. This continues on and on, as every single weapon he passes by has some lore to it that shows that they are all truly great weapons, and that there isn't actually a bad choice among them. Chul says there's no need to worry, as he stretches his hand forward. Taishan looks surprised, as he realizes what he's reaching for, because it's a sword discovered by their founder in unexplored lands. It is a sword covered in dust and veiled mysteries, and nobody understands how to use its hidden power. It's called the Black Twilight, and its known ability is nothing special, to the point that he doesn't even know why it's classified as a heaven-level weapon, and that it is pretty much just courtesy at this point to their founder. And not a single one of the ancestors has managed to be selected by it. He wonders if it's just a meaningless choice by a newborn baby. As he makes Chul float back up, he pulls him towards him, gently putting him in his hands, and he says that this might be another will of the skies. He raises Chul's blade, yelling, telling them all that this is what he has chosen from their ritual, and with this, it is over. Back to Huyen. She says that it seems like she's got quite the nuisance, and if the child gets in her way, she'll have no choice but to get rid of it. We get a time skip of a whole 9 years later, as Chul is calling for Gawa. He tells her that he's going to his afternoon training now, and she says that she'll escort him. He tries telling her that he can go by himself, but of course, she's a worrywart. She tells him that the other areas are empty, asking why he's going to Zone 1, because it's not really spacious either, and he tells her that there's someone waiting for him. She wonders who it could be. Then we hear someone yelling no, and she says it seems like there's someone in Zone 7. Someone begins telling her that she's gonna hurt her hand if she holds her sword that tightly. And we see it's actually none other than the 8th child, Hua. Chul even calls her the 8th, and Gawa says that he should address her as his older sister, because he'll get in trouble if someone were to hear him. He says they're only 5 months apart, so she's not really his older sister. Whoever is with her continuously yells, telling her that she must go again and again, and that she has to wield the sword as if it's part of her body. We see her growing frustrated to the point that she yells, throwing her sword onto the ground, asking why the hell she's being nagged so much, because it doesn't matter how she holds the sword. He tells her that this is all for her, so she should calm down, and that he is sure she'll do better next time. Chul asks who this dude is, saying that he's got a lot of work cut out for him, and Gawa introduces him as the commander of the Ebony Squad, and his name is Baek Lee Hyun. Chul's surprised that he's a whole-ass commander, saying that he's too skilled to be teaching a 9-year-old. Gawa mistakes this as him being a bit jealous, and tells him that a teacher who will realize his talent is going to appear soon. He says that it's okay, and she even starts to tear up, saying that she apologizes for not being able to look after him properly, and it's all because of her incompetence. He tells her to quit doing this, and he's told her so many times that he's thankful for everything she does. Her tears continue. Chul sighs, saying he isn't interested in people like Lee Hyun anyways, because they would have come here due to the clan's background to begin with, and that he already has some good teachers. We are introduced to the Direct Line's exclusive training area, which is Zone 1. He opens the door, entering, saying that this is the place that symbolizes their clan's distinguished history. It's more of a symbolic space instead of a training area now, but there is still a reason that he has come here. As he makes his way to even more doors in the back of the room, he puts his hand on it, saying that it's because compared to the other training areas, this place stores older weapons. They just shoved them all into the same room. He finds one in particular, saying that he's gonna go with this one today. As he picks it up, he says after he regressed 9 years ago, he's had some surprising changes happen to him. He widens his stance, then exhales, saying that the most surprising of them all is that he has a new ability that he'd never had before. As he starts to channel his aura onto the blade, he opens his eyes, saying that he has the ability to read the memories embedded in the weapons themselves. As he hears a man telling everybody to hone the basics, as the basics are the same for advanced and beginner level sword techniques, and if they want to get to the top, they have to start from the bottom. DJ Khaled wrote this shit. Chul says that usually, he has just been training with the memories of the weapons, and the older and more incredible the weapon, or the stronger the attachment the wielder had with the weapon, determines how clearly he can see the memories of the past. As he continues his practice, we see that he is using a technique called the 7-star sword first form Crimson Wind. He says that he's finally completed the step at 7-star sword now, and he's read memories of most of the weapons here, and that for the past 2 years he has trained non-stop. We hear Tai Hong laughing as he enters the room, saying that it's been a while since he's seen such a perfect 7-star sword. Chul turns, watching him walk in, and Tai Hong smiles at him. Chul gives us some backstory on his uncle, saying that although he's not from the direct line, his skills were acknowledged, and he's currently the general, and in his past life and now, he's one of the few family members who looked after him sincerely. Chul greets him, and Tai Hong pats his head, saying there's no need to be so formal, and he's proud that he's coming to the training hall every day, as he sees him every time he goes to work and when he leaves. While bringing up that it must be very tough being discriminated against by his siblings, but he hopes that he overcomes it. Chul tells him he's fine, as he's still part of the bloodline, and that their clan lives by the motto to prove themselves with the sword, so he will prove himself with his own strength and gain their recognition. Tai Hong's surprised by this, asking why he had to be born an illegitimate child. He says that he's almost at the age where he will have to go through the naming ceremony, and although it's a little late, he would like to be his teacher for the upcoming ceremony, asking him what he thinks about it. Remember, his nickname to them is Young, and the 8th is Hua. Chul says that he's glad for the offer, but he can't accept it. Tai Hong's surprised, asking if he's not satisfied with him being his teacher. Chul says that there is a rule that forbids him from having a teacher before he goes to the naming ceremony, and he does not wish to put him in a difficult situation. Tai Hong says that his siblings are breaking all the rules so blatantly, and they're getting trained by great teachers and eating good food. Chul tells him that he believes rules shouldn't be broken, even if everyone else is doing so. Now, as he said before, he wants to prove himself with his own strengths. Tai Hong wonders if this child is really only 9 years old, because when he looks into his eyes, it's as if he's looking at his eldest brother. He sighs, saying that it seems that he cannot change his mind, and he's just as stubborn as his father, as he starts messing with his hair. He says this is bad, and that this uncle of his can't do anything for him, which really does bother him, and he asks if there's perhaps something that he needs. And Chul says he's been waiting for this moment, and that to be honest, he would like to ask for a favor. Tai Hong asks what it is. Chul smirks, saying that he would like to see what's underneath the secret warehouse, which surprises Tai Hong. It jumps to them driving up to a giant tower. As they get to a gate, the guards tell them to stop. He needs to reveal his identity and the purpose of the visit. Tai Hong hands them his ID card, saying that it's just a regular inventory checkup, and he's here with the youngest, taking him on a field trip. The man salutes him, saying that he's confirmed, telling him to enter. As they open the gates, Tai Hong drives by, and Chul says that he should act fascinated, and starts putting on that exact act. Tai Hong asks if he's that excited, and Chul says of course. The secret warehouse is where all of the family's greatest treasures are stored, and the item he's looking for is also here. Weapons of legend, and ancient relics you aren't even sure exist are all types of things that do actually exist here in the warehouse. Because this place holds more items than any other clan, they finally make their way inside. Chul keeps his childlike act up. Tai Hong says the secret warehouse's basement is a place containing weapons that have been sealed for a variety of reasons. Chul says he heard there are monster-level weapons that eat up their owners. Tai Hong says that at least he is aware, and if he just holds a weapon like that briefly, both his heart and body will be eaten up. Chul acts frightened, and Tai Hong laughs, asking if he's scared about it. Chul says not at all, of course, just acting like a child, bro is locked in. Tai Hong tells him not to worry, as they can't even enter such a dangerous place, and he'll do his business from up above, so he should take his time looking around. Chul says okay. Tai Hong waves him off as he gets in the elevator. Chul sighs, saying that it's not easy to act like an innocent kid, and the secret warehouse's basement is also known as the graveyard of weapons. It's a place where countless weapons and relics are sealed. The reason he came all this way is to find a very specific one in mind, and it is called Boundless. Normally, it has the shape of a dagger, but if you inject mana, its length, shape, weight, and other properties can be changed freely. And that Gun Song, who found Boundless in the secret warehouse before he regressed, obtained the title Ever-Changing because of how diverse the weapon was. And that title is why Gun Song, who was the third child, ended up becoming the patriarch instead of the oldest, who was the likeliest candidate. He then found him, who was hiding, and got him killed, which is all that he knows at the moment. In order to prevent the same thing from happening again, he has one thing to do, and it'll take some time, but he's going to check each and every one of the weapons. As we see a black aura forming in his hands, just like when he died, he says that he'll obtain it this time before Gun Song gets the chance. He touches a dagger, saying it's not this one, and then he's been checking everything that looks like a dagger for at least an hour now, but he still has not found it. But he's determined that it's here somewhere, and he just hasn't looked at them all yet. He says that he should check the display stand. But as he's walking past the table, he bumps into something at the edge, causing it to fall to the floor. And this thing is absolutely coated in rust. He asks how it even got this bad to begin with. As he stretches his hand out towards it, the black aura from his palm shoots out by its own, completely enveloping the dagger. Chul asks what the hell is going on, and why it's suddenly doing this, as his vision goes black. He opens his eyes in an unfamiliar scenery, asking where exactly he is, as he's atop a mountain of corpses. He asks if this is the memory within the rusty dagger, but it's different from the memories of the weapons he's read until now, and it feels so clear, like he actually exists in this place right now. He then hears a gut-wrenching sound, and he turns immediately, looking up in the sky, saying that it's an overwhelming presence that nature itself would fear. It is a primal monster that popped out of a blue hole long ago, swallowing entire civilizations. And that what is in front of him is an apocalypse rank monster. His legs start shaking, as he thinks that he's going to die. There's no way he can fight and beat this thing, he knows that he has to run. As the monster glares down at him, Chul falls onto the ground. He then hears footsteps behind him, as a warrior begins slowly walking forward. Chul is surprised by this, asking when the man got behind him, and watches as he dashes forward. He leaps off the ground, soaring straight into the air, raising his weapon overhead, having no fear for the apocalypse-ranked monster. It is a single blade strike that can split his enemy, and it's called the Split Demon. As he manages to actually get his attack off on the apocalypse-ranked monster, causing a giant explosion, sending its body flying, causing the entire area to be littered in the monster's corpse. As it's raining monster juice, he says there's no way that he defeated it in one strike. He wonders who exactly this guy is, as he's staring at his back. The man turns, asking Chul who he is instead. Chul is surprised that he can see him, and panics. The man asks why he is here, and he raises his sword into the air, saying as an act of mercy, he will send him away painlessly. He swings down towards Chul, and his heart starts beating faster. He thinks he's going to die. He snaps out of the memory and is sitting there, terrified while on the ground, and the dagger falls to the floor. He wonders what the hell that was just now, and it feels like the pressure that was pushing down on his entire body still remains, as if it was real life. The rusty dagger then begins to heat up, losing its rusty coating, and Chul grabs onto it, saying there's no way, and that he has absolutely no doubt about it. He cuts his finger, and as we see a faint blue aura, he says that he will become the master of 10,000 soldiers, as that faint aura starts to brighten up hella, to the point that it's almost blinding, as it wraps around the blade. He raises it into the air, and then swings it behind him, as we see it take the shape of a longsword instead. It then takes the shape of a different blade, as he swings it again, this time in front of him, and he says that he's found Boundless, and this is exactly what he wanted. It then jumps to some time later as we hear Chul yelling and his sword hitting something. As he hits the target dummy, he says that was another failure, and it's been a week since he obtained Boundless. He turned Boundless, which he found that day in the underground secret warehouse, into a ring so that people would not notice, and he still wonders what that was back then. The movement that man used was the Split Demon, and he only showed him this technique and told him its name because he felt that it was too early for him to learn it. Regardless of the force of the technique, the man's movements were so graceful, and he can't replicate it no matter how hard he tries. He smiles but says there's still a bright side to it as he swings his blade forward. He says that he's not exactly in a rush. Before his regression, he was an outcast that couldn't even inherit the family's basic techniques. It may only be one, but this is his first time experiencing such advanced martial arts, and he clearly recalls just how that man moved. He then realizes it, saying that he's a man, and he's not an adult right now, so he has much shorter limbs. So if he tries to mimic an adult's moves, it won't be efficient at all, and he needs to adapt it onto his own body. He sighs, wondering why he didn't notice this earlier, saying that he used to do it slowly and naturally. He closes his eyes, saying that he needs to wield the sword in a way that feels right for his body. As he raises it overhead, he swings downwards, and it shatters the floor underneath it. As he pulls his sword out from the ground, he says that he thinks he's got the hang of it now. Now he just needs to solve the mana utilization problem. No matter how many times he tries to replicate utilizing mana the way he remembers, he always fails. It's as if he's forgetting something really important, and he has no choice but to keep trying. He decides that it's time to begin again, as we see a woman straight up creeping on him. He raises his blade into the air, and she quickly runs in, grabbing onto the blade with her bare hands, and calls out to him, asking where exactly he learned that skill. Chul just looks nervous. He asks her who she is, but based on her hair and eye color, she must be a direct descendant of the clan. She's surprised, asking if he really doesn't know her, but says that she guesses that it makes sense that he doesn't, as she doesn't go outside often. She asks what his name is. He gives her the nickname that his father gave him, as he hasn't got his name yet, and she says that it's a unique name. She introduces herself as Gyeonga, and says that it's nice to meet him. He recognizes her as his youngest aunt, and says that she's different from the others, and his grandfather hated that about her. Chul remembers his uncle telling him about her before his regression, and more importantly, he has no idea why she can't consider the possibility that she's stupidly strong, as she tells him that he's rather fragile. She then walks to him once more, and asks him where exactly he learned that skill while smiling at him. He asks her why she's asking, but she says that she wants to know what the ancient martial art he used was, and she really loves old martial arts, which is why she's curious, and she tells him about the ancient monsters that lived long ago too. She then pulls something out of her robe, handing it to him, which is a book, and tells him that it's a gift. She tells him to go ahead and open it as he starts flipping through the pages. He says that it's a bit hard to read due to the handwriting, but it's a mana technique, and that's not all. There's more about martial arts too. It's also of a pretty high level, so it's hard to understand, and maybe the rumors about his aunt aren't really true. He asks her what this is because he's lost on one of the parts, and she points it out, saying that these are old mana techniques that use the mana paths as their basis. In the past, only mana paths were used, not mana circles, and the modern mana techniques have him store mana in his heart. However, she doesn't believe that it's okay to treat the old techniques like garbage. He says that he's never thought about this, and she says that perhaps the mana techniques of the past were better than the current ones, and that's why there are so few records, even though she's looking into amplification and transformation techniques. He realizes it would be boundless, but for mana instead, and then runs away, telling her to wait. She wonders what he's doing, and he stands there, saying that he needs to spread the mana throughout his entire body, and reject it when it tries to return to the circle while only utilizing his mana paths. This is the mana utilization technique of the man that he could not understand. He says that this will work, as he raises his sword overhead and slams down, creating an attack that's incomparable to what it was before. Both he and Gyeonga are surprised, and he says that he finally did it, and it was a success, but she recognizes that as an amplification technique. She starts asking him how he did that, and he says that he just did. She says that she gets that, but she wants to know how, and he sighs, asking why he has to tell her that. She says that he figured it out with a notebook she gave him, and that notebook is all she reads, and she's been looking for a way to use it for more than 10 years, even when she was kicked out. And she asks what she has to do for him to tell her. He sighs, saying that he'll do it if she promises 3 things. She says it depends on what they are. He says first, she shouldn't talk to others about it unless he's given her permission, even if it's his father or older brother. She asks why, and he says that he doesn't like the idea of people talking about him. She says that she understands because she's the same way, and he can tell that she looks a bit sad about it. He says secondly, he doesn't want her to lie to him, and they need to be able to trust each other, and he'll tell her the truth too. Her brain might be smooth because it seems like she's having trouble committing this to memory. She then asks what the last one was, and he says that the last one. Well, we don't get to see what it is yet. We get a whole 1-year time skip, as Gawa runs in, calling out for Chul. He asks what brings her here. We see that Gyeonga is with him still. She tells him that he needs to take a look at this, and she holds it out in front of him. Gyeonga asks what it is, as Chul opens it, and he says it's finally time, as it's his naming ceremony. And it was sent by none other than Myeongjong. Chul wonders why exactly Myeongjong is the proxy patriarch, saying that his father must not be home right now, but he didn't hear anything about an expedition. But Gyeonga sits there shaking, and then yells because of the fact that he has to go to the naming ceremony, and he asks what's wrong. She says that she finally got the hang of it, and she needs his guidance now more than ever, and he'll have to stay for a while if he goes, so he shouldn't do it. Chul says it's been a year since the deal, and all this time they've been researching mana techniques. Modern mana techniques, which use the mana circle as the core. And ancient mana techniques, which use the mana paths as the core. And a new type of mana that combines the two of them. Gyeonga said that successfully combining the two was her dream. She wants it to passively accumulate mana, and transform its traits in the mana circle, and then use the mana paths to control and utilize it. She asks if he has to go, but Chul says thanks to this method, he's able to utilize the mana much more efficiently than other kids his age. She continues asking him not to go. And he says that she knows he has too, and she just looks super sad about it. He tells her not to worry, as it won't be as long as usual. And he intends to continue their work. She looks surprised by this. She is genuinely not all there upstairs, and she asks how he intends to continue their work when he's going to be super busy because of the lessons. He smirks, saying that he's going to proceed with the mana technique training and recovery of the ancient mana techniques simultaneously. A bit later, we see a man saying that they will begin today's training, as they have them in some weird test tubes. He says first they will endure magic attacks for 30 minutes. We are introduced to the Blood Tiger Squad group leader and the instructor for Chul and Hwa, and his name is Jang Wook. As the magic attacks start flying out within the tube, we see them getting blocked by a barrier around Chul. Wook says that he predicted Chul would have failed this right away, since he doesn't even have the most basic training. However, he's using mana techniques right now to deflect the attacks. Chul opens his eyes and even glares at Wook, which surprises him. Wook can tell that he's testing himself and comparing himself to Hwa, checking his skill level. And he wants them to give him higher level lessons. But he's still just a 10-year-old bastard child. He starts laughing at the fact that he's illegitimate. But says that calling him that after seeing how talented he is would be rude, and he'd better reflect on his past behavior, as he will do his best to teach him whatever he can. As this will be more than just lessons for the naming ceremony. A bit later, we see Chul stretching, saying that he's done. While throwing shade at how the household is insane, as they're throwing a kid into a device that constantly activates magic in order to grow resistance against magical attacks. He says that something else surprised him as well, as he didn't expect an apology from Wook. He did notice a difference in tone towards him. But it sure did catch him off guard. He decides that he's going to go rest for a bit. As Hwa comes up behind him, she reaches towards him, and he deflects her hand, and she calls him a bastard, saying that they need to talk. He asks what she's trying to do right now. She tells him to watch his mouth, as she is a legitimate child and he is not, and she's also 1 year older than he is. He tells her that he doesn't have time to talk to her, but he just doesn't want to deal with this. She tells him not to ignore her, as she imbues her fist with some aura. He can't believe she's even using mana, and that he really just wanted to blatantly ignore her, but it seems like it's not going to be an option. He easily dodges her attack, and grabs her by the throat. He says that if she wants to whine and cry, to go do it in their mother's arms, as he's busy, and he doesn't want her to bother him. He lets her go and sighs. She says that this is all his fault because of what he did at the steel selection ritual, and that she's always compared to him. He should just be invisible like any other illegitimate child, and that's not fair. She can't even sleep at night, and has to skip meals as she's constantly training, but he was born talented. She says she didn't even want to do this, and starts to mention her mother, but stops herself from saying it aloud. He says that it must be real convenient to just blame others. Just like she said, he's a bastard child, so he can't do that. If she can't sleep, then she shouldn't do it. If she can't catch up to him even by skipping on meals, then she should stop eating, and if she wants to resent him, then she should do whatever she can to surpass him. Then she can get an apology from him. That's how this family works after all. She calls him arrogant and gets pissed, saying that she's going to do much better than him at the naming ceremony. She's going to make sure that he begs for forgiveness, telling him not to forget. He tells her that he's looking forward to it, and then it jumps to the Section 7 training hall. This is only for those with direct lineage. We see Hua's maid surprised and welcoming none other than Huiyan. Huiyan says that she has to talk to her daughter alone. She then enters the room, as we see her hitting a practice target. Huiyan asks what she is doing, which surprises her, and Hua says that she was training. Huiyan says that she heard she lost, and that she's sure she told her she should break her rivals, and that she's disappointed in her, and it would have been better if she had quit this too, if she was just going to avoid getting lectured. She doesn't even want to do that anymore. Hua says that she knows, that's why she thinks she's training, but she's doing it because she wants to. Huiyan asks what she means, and Hua says that she will beat him no matter what, and not because she told him to. It's a choice that she's made, and she'll do this on her own. Huiyan asks if this means she was motivated by the bastard child. Hua realizes that she can't really explain it to her, but Huiyan gets right into her face and lifts her chin, saying that she is a legitimate child, and that she and him have fundamentally different standings. Her winning against him should be a given, but instead she's being motivated by him. She holds up some kind of liquid substance, saying that it's called dreamlike trance, and that it's a lethal poison. If she cannot surpass him, then she should use this to get the advantage, and this is the family's way after all, as she leaves her standing there holding the poison. Back to Chul's. Gawa says this makes no sense as she's looking at the monitor, and it says that Chul is rank 1 in mana arts, weapon arts, and the written exam for his report card. Chul tells her not to have any worries, and she hugs him, saying that she hasn't done anything for him, yet he's done so well. He tells her not to say that, and then they hear somebody hauling absolute cheeks, which surprises them, as Gyeonga bursts into the room, saying that they should go train. He tells her he just finished, and she says that's why they have to go because training mana helps relieve fatigue. Chul tells her that he's never heard of such an effect, and she tells him that it's probably true. He sighs, saying that it's fine, and he has something to show her. She asks if it's what she thinks it is and if he has finally attained his first star, and smirks at her. We learn that normally you have to undergo 3 stages of mana arts. The Iron Body stage where you strengthen your body. The Qi Gong stage where you change the nature of your mana. The Extraordinary Ability stage where you demonstrate supernatural abilities through mana. But his aunt's mana arts are different. Even if it's the same first stage, you can do different things and show more abilities. That's why her mana arts are divided into the stages of stars. She tells him that that's actually perfect, as he definitely has 1 star. She thought that he would find it more awkward to learn how to use his mana paths, and she thought it would take another year at least. He says he learned how to use them while getting lessons, and the training sure is crazy, and he failed at mana control, and the balance of his mana circle and mana paths were almost shattered. He says that he should have just left it. Mana flows naturally like water, after all. And it turns out their body itself was a vehicle for mana. She looks down at her hands, thinking about it. Also, for some reason, she keeps calling him baby. Bit weird. But she says that it might take a long time, but she thinks she can do it too. He sighs, saying that at least she realized that. Then she hugs him, thanking him, and starts squeezing him, low-key almost killing the dude. She says that's perfect, and now they can move on to 2 stars. And he asks if she's serious. She says that what he achieved is 1 star, but he knows that's different from the traditional first stage. He says he does, and she asks what he thinks he's the best at. He goes to say the sword, but she says she doesn't think so. He says that she's never seen him in swordsmanship training though, but she says that she actually saw him a few times when she was bored, and what she's saying is that he has an ability more outstanding than his swordsmanship, and his greatest ability is his mana arts after all. And his talents for mana arts are incredible to the point where everything else dims in comparison, and nobody was able to follow the mana arts she taught in the past. He wonders if she's right because he was ridiculed in his last life because he couldn't use mana arts. She tells him that's why she doesn't think attaining 2 stars would be difficult for him. And if he succeeds that, the naming ceremony will be a piece of cake. She says from now onward she'll teach him proper techniques, so he should focus. He says okay, but asks what that is beside her. She looks down at a box to her right. She taps it, saying that they're nothing too special, as something out of it flies by, cutting Chol's cheek, and she tells him that they're actually metal marbles, and she looks super happy about it. She says that he needs to be able to move while releasing mana, since using mana arts while staying still is no different from dead mana arts. It's time for them to begin with the real training. She's a bit of a psycho. She asks if he wants to begin. But he does not look ready for it. A bit later, we see Chol with his instructor Manhwa. We are introduced to another member of the Blood Tiger squad and another squad leader named Lee Joanquin. He says from now on he's going to teach them the secret techniques, and that they should choose the weapon they want and to come back up, and he'll give them 1 minute, so don't take their time. Hua just starts staring at Chol, and it pisses him off, and he tells her to just go ahead say something if she has to. It startles her, and she says that she has nothing to say. She says she thought he used the sword, but he says nah. She says that every time she saw him using weapons, it was always a blade, and he walks up holding multiple weapons. Joanquin asks what he's doing, and Chol says that he told him to choose a weapon and come, so he did. Joanquin says he definitely told him to bring the weapon he uses, and Chol says these are all the weapons he uses. Joanquin thinks about it, and he says that he thought he wasn't dumb, but turns out he's a complete idiot, and to remember what he's going to say from now on. He said he'll teach him the secret techniques, but he's not teaching posture or skill. There are many secret arts called enlightenment in the Lee clan. In order to learn those secret arts, they need to learn the basics, and they need to awaken the sixth sense sleeping in their blood, and that he's going to awaken their senses now. They shouldn't have too hard of a time waking up their sixth sense with what he's about to do. Hua wonders what it's going to be, and before Chol can reply to tell her that she needs to prepare herself, Joanquin dashes instantly in, and is surprised and just barely in time blocks an attack from Joanquin that sends him flying backwards. Joanquin is surprised that he actually blocked that. Chol just can't believe that he has to do this crazy shit again, and he didn't receive this training properly before he regressed, but this time he'll make sure to absorb everything he can. But that doesn't turn out to be as easy as he thought, as we see him getting smacked in the face. Hua comes behind also, only to get bodied by Joanquin. As Chol hits the floor, he says it's been a month since they began training with Joanquin, and they've been training so hard that their bones break, and they are getting internal injuries. And it's not the type of training a 10-year-old kid should be doing, but he doesn't intend to continue whining about it, as he's starting to get the hang of it. We see Hua snap out of it, and she asks if she really passed out again. Chol says yes, and this is the 22nd time, and Chol only passed out 16 times. She tells him that it's only because she wasn't prepared. While they're yapping, Joanquin says that the 8th child sure does have a sturdy body, and he's been attacking them, but she hasn't been seriously injured. And that Chol, he felt this on the first day too, but he's definitely something special. At first, he thought he was an idiot because he brought a whole bunch of different weapons, but he was actually proficient in all of them, and he knew how to utilize them as well. He starts to smile, saying it's been a month now, and it seems that he's starting to get the hang of it, and then he finds it pretty interesting. He says that they'll continue training, and then they should get back to their positions. A bit later we see them both gassed out. Then Chol calls out to her, and she asks what he wants. He says that he'll give her a signal, and she just needs to block his attack once for him. And she asks why she should do it, and he tells her that if she doesn't want to, he just thought they could get a nice attack in. She doesn't look happy about it, but asks if he's sure. He nods his head, saying yes. And she charges in, saying that he's going to have to pay her back for this. Chol says there's no chance of winning at his skill level right now, and he has no choice but to take advantage of their numbers. So Chol says that working together is actually not a bad decision, but that's only if things go according to their plan. Chol goes for a blind spot, but Joanquin predicts it and dodges the attack, and then Chol deflects the follow-up. Joanquin looks impressed, and then dashes forward. Chol readies his next attack as Joanquin does too, and yells, telling Hua that she should do it now. He then backpedals while she flies in, and Chol throws his spear aside, swapping to his sword. He says there's only one way he can get a proper attack in, as he starts to prepare his sword, and he says that he has to use the ultimate attack that he got from Boundless, which is the Split Demon, as he charges in, imbuing his sword with the aura. Jo Eun-kwon looks surprised, as Chul's already closed the gap. We see him release the grip on his sword, only to fly in with his fist instead. As Jo Eun-kwon looks surprised, we hear him make contact with something, but Chul laughs, and says that he's surprised that he actually blocked that. Chul then starts to spit up blood, as he was sent flying into a wall, getting pretty injured. Jo Eun-kwon says that it's been 37 days, and he congratulates him on awakening his sixth sense. But he tells Hwa that she still has a while to go, and he throws her right beside him and says that's it for today's training. She asks Chul what happened to his plan, saying that she trusted him. Jo Eun-kwon looks down at his hand, saying that he used mana but he still got through. Though it was only a small amount, he ended up breaking his rule of not using it. The ability to judge that it would be better to give up on a certain attack means that Chul has some good sense, and that everybody else in the household is definitely going to be afraid of Chul in the future. It took Hwa 47 days to awaken hers, and they graduated from Jo Eun-kwon's lessons, and Chul used his remaining time to rest and review what he had learned. And that was when he got a surprise visit from his oldest brother, Myeongjung. This is Taishin's first son, and he was given the title Twin Star, and he is almost a second rank in magic and a second rank martial artist. People admired and feared him, but to Chul he was his sole brother. Myeongjung says that he's sorry he hasn't been able to pay much attention to him despite being his brother, as he's been pretty busy lately. Chul says it's alright, and Myeongjung says this must be the first time he's seeing him, yet he recognized him immediately. Chul says of course, he may only be his half-brother, but he can't not know the face of his eldest. Myeongjung tells him to stop using the term half-brother, as they may have different mothers, but he is still much a brother to them as their other siblings. Myeongjung says that he hasn't even gone through his naming ceremony, yet he seems to be pretty harsh on himself. Chul apologizes, and Myeongjung sighs, saying that there's no need to, and he doesn't need to be polite to him either, as he's his brother. Myeongjung then says that he got a gift to commemorate their first meeting, and he got it when he was accepted into France's Eiffel Magic University, and he thinks he'll get more use out of it than him. It's a miracle medicine called nectar, the wine of the gods. Chul says it's a very high-tier miracle medicine that only 500 milliliters a year can be made in France's Magic Tower, and he says this is pretty valuable, and thanks his brother. Myeongjung says that he's a bit different. Chul asks what he means. Myeongjung says that all of their other siblings have just seen him as a rival, and he's actually glad that he's different, although he's not used to it. Chul tells him that he seems to be mistaken. It's not that he doesn't see him as a rival, and he's his rival since he's a member of the clan, so he shouldn't just think of him as a cute little brother, as he might grow up to be his biggest rival, and he hopes that it'll be a great competition. Myeongjung starts laughing, saying that he looks forward to it, the day that he does make that a reality. Chul says that even in his past life, Myeongjung genuinely cared for him, and that he'll make sure to protect him this time around. It jumps to a few days later. The day of the second trial of the Lee clan, the naming ceremony has finally arrived, and they go to the Red and Blue Island. It's an island where the land's color changes depending on the amount of mana in the atmosphere, clan's naming ceremony since ancient times. I'm not sure who this is, but they say they will now explain what they need to know about the naming ceremony. And both Chul and Hwa will have to survive on this island for 3 weeks in order to prove themselves. These devices have been given to keep track of their locations, so please make sure they keep them at all times. The trial chamber will be open for 2 days after the final 3-week period. As they both equip the items, they get dropped off on the island and then left. Hwa says that she has something to say, and Chul will ask if she's finally made up her mind. She asks what he's talking about. He says that he knows she's been trying to say something to him ever since they were being trained. She asks how exactly he knew that, and he wonders how he was meant to not notice because she was always so hesitant after the training. He tells her to go ahead and say it, as he'll listen. She holds the listening device they were given, looking down at it, and pretty much tells him to take his off and put it away. He does so, asking her what's up. She hands him the poison her mother gave, saying that it's called the dreamlike trance. It's only effective against children under the age of 15, and if it's exposed to the air for more than 5 minutes, it evaporates. Apparently, the poison will cause his mana path to malfunction for a long time once he intakes it. Chul asks who gave her this, and she says that she's not telling him that. She smashes it on the ground, surprising him. She says that there is no evidence anymore and that she's going to beat him fair and square without using any petty tricks. So she needs him to take this test seriously and do his absolute best. He tells her that even if she hadn't said any of this, he was going to do his best anyways. She tells him that's good, and to make sure to challenge the center of the island after he gets used to the environment, and she heard it's pretty dangerous. He says he knows, asking if she's worried about him or something. And then as they start arguing, they hear a very loud sound. And she tells him not to die, since she's going to head off now. He watches her leave, and he says that he did say that, but his destination is not the outskirts of the island. And he's going to head straight to the center. Straight off the rip. We hear Cheljung, seeing as expected of the 8th, she's quite outstanding. She's already finished the first assignment. And the number of animals she's defeated is quite astonishing, as we see them watching a NASA-like room. They say that despite it being her first practical experience, it's only expected, as there's no way she'd be underperforming after Jo Eunkwon's teachings. He asks if it was only 47 days, Jo Eunkwon says that she originally was not of this caliber, and it was expected that she would take 2 full months. While she had quite a bit of talent, that was all it was. However, someone provoked her to improve much faster, and it was none other than Chul. Cheljung asks what the boy is even doing, and Jo Eunkwon says that it seems like he's looking to set up a hideout. Cheljung calls him a coward, saying it's just like a bastard child to run away and hide, and that he's soiling the name of their clan. Myeongjung tells him to stop, and that trying to find a hideout in a dangerous environment should be considered strategic, and it's not something to scold him for as it's normal. The rest say that's true, but it seems their expectations have been set high due to Hwa's performance. Cheljung says that being normal in the clan is a sin, asking them if he is wrong or not. They say that he's right, and a person from their clan doing something average is quite a hilarious sight. Myeongjung can't believe they're mocking him just because of his background, wondering when their clan fell so low. Or perhaps it's always been like this, but he wonders what Chul's thinking by going to the center of the island. He looks over towards Tai Hong, who's anxious as shit, wondering what he's doing, and Myeongjung says it seems like he's not the only one who's concerned, and he sighs, really wondering what Chul's up to. Chul finds a cave, saying this place seems good enough, and he throws in some medicinal herb into it after burning it, and then blocks off the entrance. They start saying that his concealing skills are quite impressive. Cheljung then realizes something, asking what the hell he is doing. Chul takes off his tracking devices, putting them on a different leaf, and picks up another leaf covering the camera, completely blocking their vision of him. They have no idea what he's doing now. Jo Eunkwon starts laughing, and says that he's just as unpredictable as always. Now that the camera's been covered up, Chul says there's no reason to show them this, and that now he can use the boundless. Since he's on this island, he might as well salvage as much as possible, and it's time for him to head out. A bit later, we see him making a disgusted face, and low-key I would too. What the hell did bro cook? He says it's almost finished, but it's so nasty, asking if he really has to eat this, and that nobody in their right mind would think that this is a tea made from mana herbs. He didn't have enough money to purchase a cheap elixir back in his previous life, and he's glad that he's lived the way he did to learn this recipe. Gyeongga told him that there was a lot of mana on the island, so he should increase his mana as much as possible during his time stay. He says that she told him if he drank this tea, it would probably be more effective. He says that he finally drank all of it, and he says that was such a nasty taste. This marked the beginning of a lonely 3-week journey. It jumps to day 18 of the naming ceremony, specifically at Myeongjung's office. Somebody knocks at the door asking if they can enter, and Myeongjung says yes. He apologizes for interrupting. Myeongjung says that it must be bad news. We are introduced to his direct affiliate and the Azura Sword Squad's vice leader, Yoo Jang-hyun. He says it seems like a large vagabond group has entered South Korea's northern regions. He expected them to make their way through the unexplored region, but they are instead heading directly south. In 2 days' distance from them are the Man of Stone mines for their clan. Myeongjung says that vagabonds usually go through unexplored regions while committing all kinds of acts of crime. Myeongjung says there's no way those hyena-like bastards would enter their territory without some kind of scheme in mind. Jang Hyun says that they look like vagabonds, but it may just be a disguise, and it's possible that some other forces are behind them. Myeongjung says there was intel about the Nine Dragon stronghold moving their forces towards the north, the northern border as well. Zhang Yun's giant organization, the Nine Dragon stronghold, they share the border leading to the unexplored region with them, and they regularly provoke the clan by stepping into their territory. Myeongjung says it must have leaked out that their father isn't at home at the moment, and there is no better timing than now for their enemies to try something. Myeongjung asks if the intelligence branch is aware of this. Jang Hyun says that he was able to find out about this more quickly than them because of Myeongjung's orders to keep an eye on them. Myeongjung says that he should cooperate with the intelligence branch to figure out more about the matter, as he thinks there's a lot more to it, and he just hopes it's nothing more than a bad feeling. Then that night, back at where the naming ceremony is taking place, we see a magic circle appear as there's some kind of crack in the dimension. Somebody starts to exit with a smirk on his face. He says that 2 nights should be enough to kill one bastard child. The next day on the island, we see some kind of monster's foot as we are introduced to the 7th ranked monster dragon named Draco. Chul is the one fighting it, and the monster prepares some kind of fire attack, blasting it out directly towards where Chul is standing. Chul readies himself and narrowly dodges underneath as it burns right by his ear, and charges forward right beneath the beam. Leaping off the ground with his sword imbued with mana, he screams whilst putting it overhead using the split demon, only for him to stab it directly in its skull, and it falls over dead on the spot. He sighs, saying that dragons sure are on a different level, and had he fought it when he had just got here, he would have been knocked out immediately. He managed to reach the dragon's territory 19 days after he entered the Red and Blue Island, but staying here any longer would be a waste of time, and there's another reason he came all the way here to begin with. He senses something and comes to a stop and wonders if it's really happening again. He crouches down in some bushes and says that it's just as he thought. As we see some 8th rank monsters, the Lizardman. Chul says that something's been off since yesterday. Lizardmen monsters that are only supposed to appear on the outskirts are here in the heart of the island, and are also attacking and running away. And that lizardmen aren't smart because they're lower in rank, then they might be affected by something external. And if that's the case, there's something more to this. As he swings forward, the lizardman is surprised and screeches as it starts to run away, and Chul says that he knew it. He cuts 2 of their heads off in an instant, and says that something happening once may be a coincidence, but now twice means that it's not, and he should follow it. I'm not sure if this is the lizardmen's voice or somebody else's that say to confront the Lee clan and to fight them all. As it continues walking forward, we see that man who entered with a purple aura, and he says that those of the Lee clan sure are peculiar. And he wonders just how a boy so young managed to take on so many monsters alone, though it should be fine as he's just a little kid at the end of the day. The lizardman bows before him, and he says that he's definitely a boy who will fall for an obvious trap, and we are introduced to a trainer named Nishiyama Shugo. He says that he's sure he won't have to resort to Plan B, and Chul's watching from above a tree, saying that he was a bit doubtful because it was so blatantly obvious, but it really was a trap, and that if he has the ability to control monsters, he might be a trainer. And he wonders how an outsider could possibly get in here, but says that it isn't possible unless there was a teleportation spell circle set up here, and that would mean this is a Lee clan member's doing. He starts to laugh, saying that he should just notify the household and wait for reinforcements, but decides it would be too late by the time they get here, and he won't be able to find out who is behind this. That only leaves him one option. As he puts the listening device right in his pocket, he starts to use stealth arts. Turning semi-translucent, he says that he's going to hide his presence and take him down as he leaps off the tree, dashing forward instantly. He then leaps up behind Shugo with his sword overhand. As Chul gets closer, Shugo's bird starts to wake up, alerted to his presence and screeches, giving off an alarm. Shugo turns, wondering when he got so close, but Chul can't believe that he had a danger detection artifact. Guess it wasn't a bird. Shugo does manage to block the attack and create some distance between them. He says that for an illegitimate child, he's way better than he expected. Chul says that maybe he's just weak. He tells him to shut up, and sends in the lizard guys to go attack him. Chul uses the 3rd form of the 7-star sword, called the True Azure. As he instantly kills all 3 lizard men with clean, swift strikes, he then freezes up, realizing that he can't move as if it feels like there are chains wrapped all around his body. Shugo laughs, saying that he's fallen for it, and that the array he is in is one of the most advanced ones he could have used. It blocks up the mana circles of martial artists, and he is nothing but a powerless kid without mana. It's time for him to meet his inevitable end. Chul says that if it's just blocking the mana from his heart, then this shit is lightweight. As he starts to use his mana paths instead, he says that he probably should have thought of something better than these chains, as he dashes forward, breaking them, heading straight behind Shugo. Instead of hitting him though, he does a somersault over his head, which surprises Shugo, low-key. I don't know why he didn't just stab him in the back. And Chul asks if he's given up on running away. Shugo starts to panic, asking how he broke free, yet Chul says that he's not going to tell him that, and he's notified the household about him, so he should surrender. Shugo laughs, saying this is still okay, and he will eliminate him and regain his freedom. Chul asks what he's talking about, only for a giant shadow to loom over him, and actually break his sword, instantly sending him flying straight backwards into a tree, and he crashes into it, coughing up blood. He asks if that's what he thinks it was. As it continues walking forward, he looks up at it, and we see a giant monster, and he says that it's the Red and Blue Islands guardian, the Turtle Head Mountain. It's a third rank, and it's basically a nightmare of a monster, and he can't believe that this third-rate trainer has tamed it. Shugo says that he's quick to catch on, and he doesn't have perfect control, but it should definitely carry out the one order to kill him, and that he should just give up on fighting and accept his fate while he can. As he throws out some talismans, they start to fall around the floor on Chul, and he says he should calm down. If Shugo doesn't have perfect control over it, that means that he just needs to catch the trainer instead. In order to be able to do anything, there's only one option left, and he made it just in case, but he never expected to use it like this. This medicine was banned because its side effects were too intense, and it's called a mana booster. As he starts to circulate all of his mana, he says there's also one more thing. As his aura begins to increase, he starts to pour it into Boundless to activate it, and he says the techniques that Gyeonga said to use only in the most dangerous of situations, and that is now what he's going to have to do, as it's called the Heaven-Defying Technique. If only he had killed Shugo earlier. He dashes off the ground, heading straight up towards the Turtle Mountain, swinging at it, sending out an aura wave. He doesn't even leave a scratch, but he stopped in his tracks, and now he's going to have to take it down with his follow-up ability. The Turtle Head Mountain, though, doesn't plan to sit idly by, as it lets out a screech, and Chul says that is called the mountain's cry, and it is a fear, and he can't move because of the mana waves that are coming towards him. But then the black aura from when he regressed starts to circulate around his heart, and has a light coat around his body, helping him resist the fear. He then runs forward, saying that now's his chance. As he holds his sword behind him, he begins to use the first technique, Boundless, which is the split demon, hitting the Turtle Mountain straight in its throat. It still wasn't enough to injure it, as it shoots out a giant-ass purple beam, instead in the midst of its fear, so much so that it even splits the clouds. Chul begins to start violently spitting up blood, saying that he doesn't have time, and he can't move for a while due to the side effects of the mana booster and the Heaven-Defying Technique together, and only has 10 seconds left to find the trainer. As the countdown continues, it's now 4 left, and he senses something, saying that he can see a thread on the ground. With 3 seconds left, he spots Shugo's back, and Shugo turns within the final second, and Chul leaps forward, going straight for his throat, saying that he's not close enough, and if only he had grown a bit more. But then he remembers that he can just make his sword longer, using Boundless, as he does exactly that, and then slices the trainer across the chest. He then drops his sword to the floor, and says that he needs to take care of himself first, as it's really over if he passes out right now. And Gyeonga said to drink the nectar that Myeongjung gave him if he ever used the technique, and he's glad he brought it with him. And before any monsters get too close, he needs to take care of this guy, but his vision begins to go black. When he opens his eyes again, all he sees is a white area, and he wonders where exactly he is, and wonders about the trainer and the monster. He then screams in pain, as it feels as if his entire body is being ripped apart. We see a giant eyeball staring at him, asking if it has really come to this. Saying that even individually, those things are too dangerous to be consumed by humans, yet both of them are in this one human. I'm unsure as to what it's talking about. But it continues, saying that they were hoping he wouldn't wake up. But now it's time for him to feed it. Chul sees a purple beehive, wondering if it is the purple glowstone of clarity. The being says that Chul's not meant to eat it, as it is what will eat him, and a new era is upon them. And it tells him to become stronger. But we can see that it's the Turtle Mountain as it waddles away. And it tells him to become stronger so he doesn't get devoured by time. When he opens his eyes, we see Hua asking if he's finally up. And he's confused to see her, so he calls out to her informally, and she reminds him that she is older than he is. But she'll let it go this once, since he's not doing well, asking how he's feeling. He starts to do a check on his body, saying that it's in a mess. But the amount of mana has increased a lot, and he wonders if he really ate the purple glowstone of clarity. He tells her that a few of his mana paths are broken, his intestines are twisted, and every bone is fractured. He has some muscle breakdown, but it's not all too bad. She says that sounds like ass. And Chul says that the purple glowstone of clarity was something that she was originally meant to take. It's an amazing miracle medicine that reinforces one's body, increases their mana, and helps them gain resistance against poison and curses. It's something that he was going to try to get anyways, but he does feel bad about it. He asks her what she's doing here, and then we hear Myeongjung call out to him. Chul sits up, looking at him, and he says that he brought him some potions, asking if he's feeling better, and that he should treat his mana first. Chul tells him just the potion's okay, and Myeongjung watches with concern as he drinks it. He asks Hua if she can excuse him for a minute, and he says that if he had died, he would have annihilated the trainer, as well as all the organizations involved with him, no matter how large or great the organizations were. Chul laughs, saying this is nice to hear. And Myeongjung says that what he did was something every martial artist should try to emulate, however he cannot think of it in a positive light as his brother. Chul says he didn't expect the Turtle Head Mountain to show up, and he's sorry, but he would have just waited had he known. Hua sighs, saying that it's good that he knows the difference between arrogance and confidence. Chul then says that he took care of the trainer, so he assumes that he has the rights to his information. Myeongjung says that he thought he would say that, and that the trainer was an almost 5th rank sorcerer who had once dipped his feet into Onmyoto. It seems like he had gotten expelled when he tried to get his hands on banned sorcery, and he must have activated the sorcery when the Turtle Head Mountain was sleeping, and he assumes that he's trying to get rid of Chul and make it look like it was a monster's doing. Chul asks if he's figured out who's behind this, and Myeongjung tells him that it'll be hard to think about at the moment. Chul realizes something, saying that the final target wasn't him, but rather it was Myeongjung. Myeongjung asks what makes him think that, and Chul says that he thinks their goal was to damage his reputation by saying that he was not only unable to detect invaders, but also slow to react to the situation. Myeongjung sighs, saying that he's probably right, and wonders what he should do. Chul asks if he's really alright, and Myeongjung says he is, while patting his head. He says that it'll hurt his image a bit, but it won't make a huge difference, and that he can't leave his position empty for long, so he better go back to work. Chul grabs onto his hand, asking if they can do something that he just thought of. Let's say that he predicted the trainer would invade, and gave him orders ahead of time, and he'll testify accordingly. And then it'll make it seem like he prepared for something even the intelligence branch couldn't. Myeongjung says that it'd be better if he just told the truth, but Chul says that if he does, then the people will be more wary of him and see him as competition. Myeongjung says he understands, and that it'll be a benefit to both of them, asking him what it is that he wants. Chul says that he just wants entry to the library, and that 3 days should be more than enough. Myeongjung calls him arrogant, but in a jokingly way, and laughs, thanking him. Chul says there's no need to thank him, as they're both benefiting from this. Myeongjung says that he's sure he would have thought of ways to overcome the situation, even without him, asking if that's right. He then gets a phone call, saying that this is probably the Azure Sword Squad, and that he should get going. He then throws something towards Chul, which is none other than Boundless, and he tells him that he'll keep it a secret. As Chul looks down at it, he says that his brother sure is clever. A bit later, Hua returns, saying that the conversation must have went well. He says it did, and she asks which test he's going to go for, as they all should be open. He says he wants to know about her first, and she says that she was the one who brought it up. He says that he'll tell her, only if she tells him, and she says of course she's choosing the most difficult one, and asks about him, and he tells her that he's going to do the Hall of Fighting. Which surprises her because she doesn't recognize it, saying surely it isn't the one on the outskirts, and he tells her that's exactly the one it is. She looks a bit annoyed, saying that she's disappointed, and she thought he was better than that, and there's no point in even talking to him if he's going to actually go through this. She thought he was better than her. But it seems like that wasn't the case. Chul explains that in reality, there's a prejudice that the difficulty of the test depends on the location of the hall, and she must be thinking that he's taking the easy route, but he doesn't really care. A bit later, of him continuously walking, he says that he can't remember too well, but he feels like it was somewhere around here, and that there was a cave hidden nearby for the second assignment of the naming ceremony, which is called the Hall of Fighting. He lights up a torch, saying that it may look like a regular wall at first, but it's not ordinary. He draws his blade, he attacks it, revealing a door behind it, and he smiles, saying that this is it, and he's actually found it. Chul starts to cut his hand slightly, but he's not emo enough to play guitar on his wrist yet, and he starts to imbue it with his mana. He then throws it on the door, causing it to open, revealing an altar inside with a sword inside of it. Chul starts to slowly walk into it, making his way to the altar. Once he is there, he says as a descendant of the Li clan, he accepts the challenge of the forefather, and begs to heed his request. There is only one challenge in the Hall of Fighting, and it is to win in a battle against oneself. He has an unlimited number of tries, even if he chooses to give up, he can't leave until he succeeds. As we see him standing before an image of himself, he starts to unsheath his blade, saying that it's time to begin. As he takes his first step forward, we see his head get cut. Before he can realize what's going on, his head starts to fall off of his body, and his blood starts to fly out. As he just lost, he then jolts awake, grabbing onto his throat, saying that his head was cut off just now, and he sees that it's just an illusion, because he can't die within the Hall of Fighting to himself, but it felt so damn realistic. Most ordinary people would go insane if they experienced this, but that's not the problem here, and he wonders if that means that's what he is capable of doing, as the Hall of Fighting is able to bring out 100% of his current potential, but it means the illusion will be able to take advantage of skills that he can't even use yet, and if that's the case, he should have been able to block that strike, and he decides to try it one more time. However, that attempt didn't go any better, nor did his third attempt as he got stabbed in the stomach. His fifth attempt, he was finally able to deflect the attack, but got choked out in the end. The 10th attempt also ended with his head being cut off, and this went on and on and on and on for I don't know how many attempts, but he's well past the 23rd now as he is actually brawling now with the other version of himself. He manages to distance himself, and he says that in his 75th attempt, or maybe this is already his 80th, but he thinks that he's finally gotten it, and he's come to learn everything about himself. His greatest strengths are his flexibility, and his ability to overcome irregularities, and the freedom to break through expectations. Then he changes Boundless from a sword to a spear. He says that this is it, because the clone mirrors him. He charges forward with an overhead attack, which gets blocked. He then gets pushed back as they both swap to swords again, and he says that the more he fights his counterpart, the more similar they are becoming with one another, as they are mirroring each other's abilities one-to-one. The clone instantly distances himself, changing back to a sword for the second time, and starts to run in. He stabs Chul straight in the stomach, but Chul calls him an idiot, saying that he let his guard down on purpose. As he grabs onto his arm, he swings down using the split demon, cutting the clone straight down the middle. As the clone starts to fade out, it smiles, and there's even a black aura that gets released. Chul says that passing the Hall of Fighting allows him to unlock a hidden ability of the Li clan. The ability he got in his last life was reinforced, the most common one, and he wonders what he'll get this time from finishing this challenge, which was incomparably harder to the rest. When he opens his eyes, he looks up to see a golden aura, and he starts to recognize what the ability is. We don't get to hear what it is yet. But outside of the door, we see a lot of people waiting for him, and Tai Hong even begins to sigh, saying that he thought that Chul would be out by now, but he doesn't have any more incidents he'll cause in the naming ceremony. Someone says there's been a change in the mana density, and Tai Hong looks surprised as the door finally begins to open. Chul starts his exit. He starts to wobble, and falls forward. As Tai Hong dashes forward, he grabs onto him, asking if he's okay, telling him to wake up. But Chul only says, "Please." Tai Hong asks what he wants, and of course, all Chul wants is water and food, and starts groaning. Tai Hong wonders if that was really it, and then he starts to get annoyed, saying that he can't believe he pulled this kind of shit. At least he genuinely cares for him. Sometime later, back at Chul's house, we hear Gawa screaming his name hella loudly, and she asks if he knows how worried she was as he challenged the ancient Hall of Fighting the forefather created. Chul tells her that he's still covered in dirt, and he's been out for the last month, so he kind of stinks too. She says that even though she was planning to scold him when he returned, she's just glad that he's actually back, and he thanks her. She says that she's going to run the bath for him, and she'll also bring out the food as soon as he's done. He then asks where Gyeonga is, and she says that she was actually meaning to bring that up. He asks why she's acting strange. It then jumps to Gyeonga laughing and smiling that he's back. We see that she's locked up, and Chul asks what happened to her. She doesn't answer, but says that it's good to see that he's fine, and then asks how he managed to increase his total mana so much, as his body shouldn't have been able to handle it. She tells him to sit down so they can talk, but in a stern voice he calls out to her, and she laughs, saying it's fine. Chul says he didn't think she'd go this far for him, and he explains the reason why she's here, and it's because she caused a scene in front of the elder and his eldest brother. She was yelling, saying that it's always their fault that Chul's in situations like this. She says that whenever she thinks about those people causing trouble for him, she just couldn't hold back her anger, and she just got angry at the thought that she wouldn't be able to see him again. It felt like something was choking her when she thought about it. Chul says to be honest, he still doesn't completely trust her, but he has noticed that he started treating her as a part of his real family, and he sighs, saying that he should, and he tells her to wait, as he'll go get her out soon. She tells him not to push himself, and he says that he won't, and that she should just wait, as he'll be back to see her again shortly. It then jumps to some time later, as there's an airplane about to land on a runway, and outside is Chul with the rest of the family. As their father steps out of the plane, they all welcome him, and he says that they must have waited a long time. Hwaeun says not at all, and she's gone ahead and prepared a hot bath for him, and a meal for him to enjoy. He says he's got it, and we see both Chul and Hwa there too. Chul says that he thought he'd grown pretty strong after the whole naming ceremony incident, yet he still can't tell how big the difference between he and his father is. They make eye contact, then his father turns away. Taishin says that he's told them he doesn't need someone who refuses to fight for the family. However, it seems that there's only one child of his who has the desire to actually beat him. Chul's surprised, but all the other kids are just wondering who he's talking about. Chul says that he thought he'd hid his emotions pretty well, but he still managed to read his mind, and he sighs. It then jumps to some time later, as we are now at the banquet hall. Chul is standing there awkwardly in the corner, saying that maybe it's because it's rare for the Lee clan, but this banquet is pretty big for the naming ceremony. There's someone here who is famous for being the youngest leader of a magic tower, as well as an Onmyoto chief, which is what that trainer guy practiced. Then someone approaches him, which is none other than Butler Choi, who says that the patriarch is looking for him. Chul asks where he's at, and Butler Choi says he'll lead the way. Chul wonders why he's being asked for personally, saying that he really hopes it's nothing too serious. Outside, we see his father waiting, as Chul bows after greeting him. He then notices that Myeongjong is with him too. As they both look at him, Chul realizes what this is about. Taishin says that he's sure he's aware of why they called him here. They're talking about the naming ceremony, and according to Myeongjong, he was ordered to capture an outsider. This is something that he assumes Chul is behind. Chul can't believe that he already knew it, and says that it's correct. That's why he offered a deal to his older brother, the right to enter the library in exchange for preventing any potential problems. Taishin says that considering his involvement in the incident, he will forgive him for the false reports. However, there will not be a next time. Chul says he understands. But Taishin doesn't stop there, as he tells Myeongjong to expect an appropriate punishment in the near future. Since the banquet is his to handle, he should return to the hall and take care of it. Myeongjong says that he will, and he smiles after walking past Chul, but Chul just hopes that he'll be okay. Taishin says that excluding his false report, the resolution of this incident was all his accomplishment, and he's sure he will receive the promised reward he was talking about with Myeongjong. Lastly, for finding out about the Hall of Fighting, he wants to give him a reward as well. Chul's surprised, but says if that's the case, and we don't get to see what it is yet. Then we see Taishin giving a speech, thanking everybody for coming all this way to attend the event. The banquet was held to give their blessings to two children, and they shall now proceed with the naming ceremony. He tells Hwa to step forward, saying that as she has been selected by the Holy Sword, he is sure she will always fight for the light of others, and in hopes of helping her continue on this path of light, she is finally given the name of Shohyun. She looks super excited and thanks him, and Taishin then says it's Chul's turn and tells him to step forward. Chol says it's a completely different reaction from the steel selection ritual, but that makes no difference. Taishan says that while he is strong and smart, he is also flexible but unyielding to others, the same way a master blacksmith forges blades out of blocks of steel. He has trained himself to reach his potential. As such, there is no better way to describe him than this. He snaps his fingers, and he is finally given the name of Chol. In the past, he gave him the name Chol so that he lived life as strong as steel. However, the meaning behind his name has changed, and it won't stop until he reaches the top of the clan. He is glad that he has his actual name back and thanks his father. It then jumps to the isolation ward of the judicial department. Gyeonga is still sitting inside of it, going absolutely crazy. She says that she wants to leave, as it's so cramped in here, and she hasn't seen him since he received his name. The guards are just begging for mercy because all she's done is screech. Then they get a phone call. As she's screaming that she wants to leave, they tell her that she actually can, and she looks confused about it. They tell her that while she will be contacted regarding her punishment later, she is free to go at the moment. She exits super excitedly, even kicking down the door, and as she's running away, we hear Chol tell her to wait one moment. She turns to see him, and again she's still calling him baby. She asks if he really got her out, and he says of course he did. She asks how, and then he hands her a paper. She starts reading it, asking what it is, and he says that she is now indebted to him. She's reading it, and it says that she is now appointed as an elder and will work as the master of Chol. She's surprised by this, and Chol tells her to please take good care of him. A bit later, we see Chol dressing up, and Gawa asks if it starts today. He says yes, and today will be the start, and she says that she can't believe he's already 13, and he says that he'll see her soon, as we've had another time skip now. Chol says it's finally time for him to start his life as a pupil. A lot of the other students are asking if that's the 9th child, and they say they heard rumors about his steel selection ritual and naming ceremony, but they all just think that he's a bastard child who got lucky. Chol's just tired of hearing the word bastard thrown around all the time. And then we even spot Shohyun, and people say they knew the children of the main family are different from the start. He says their reactions to her are completely different compared to his. As she starts walking awkwardly, she freezes and notices Chol, and he tells her it's been a while. She says that she hopes he's not too bothered by what happened at the naming ceremony, and he asks what she means. She said the fact that she said she was disappointed. He starts to recall it, and he says that it's no big deal, and not to worry about it. She asks if he's sure while getting excited, saying that it's a relief as she thought he was petty. He asks what she means by that, and she completely changes the conversation, saying that she heard their aunt is his master and that she's a member of the library now. Before they can finish talking, a man yells, telling them to pay attention, as they'll now be appointing them to their classes. All named pupils are to gather in front of them, making sure to maintain their current formations. The students start to get a little nervous, hoping they don't get assigned to a bad class. But Chol understands why they're acting like this. Since cadets are trained for 3 years, class allocation is important. Each level is assigned into 5 groups, with more talented pupils being assigned to a higher class. Shohyun gets assigned to class 1, and he says as expected. Now it's Chol's turn, and they hand him his paper without telling him which class he belongs to. Chol starts reading it, and he says he could tell the guy looked disappointed when he handed it to him, but he knew this would happen at some point, but he never would have thought they would have set him up from the start, as he was given class 5, which is the garbage dump. Which is crazy, considering how well he did in the steel selector interval and the naming ceremony. Might just be lazy writing, but he explains that members of the main family are assigned to their classes based on the results of the naming ceremony, and the elders and Huayan must be behind this. Although people consider this a setback, it could be for the better, as it's less trouble for him. One of the people approaches him, saying that class 5 is this way and that he will guide Chol. Chol says okay, and as they start walking away, he notices Shohyun staring at him, and he wonders what's with her expression, as she is pissed about the fact that he's in class 5. And he says it looks like she'll get involved if he doesn't do something about it. He waves her off, telling her that he's fine, and then turns back around, saying that it's not that big of a deal. While he's standing behind the other class 5 students, they start to straight doom the mood, saying they were just gonna fail, and they don't even know what to tell their parents. Chol can't believe that such children of the Lee clan have bad attitudes. One of them calls out to him, saying that he's the youngest of the main family, asking if they're right. He says that he is, and the kid says that he's always wanted to introduce himself, and he does so, saying that his name is Kim Han, and he's the son of a small blacksmithing family that works with the Lee clan, and that it's an honor to be in the same class as Chul. Chul doesn't recall ever hearing his name from the past, and asks why he's excited to be with him. He says that's because he's the center of attention, and he's always wanted to meet him because of that. Chul says it doesn't seem like he's lying, and sighs, asking what he thinks about being assigned to Class 5. Han says that he guesses they determine that his current skills are suited for it, but even so, there's no way of telling what might happen to him in the future. Chul looks over and smiles, telling him that he passes, and Han asks what he means. And then it jumps to a group of students greeting them, and one of them is named Choi In-ha, and they're the oldest so far, being 15. The other students look confused, and their teacher claps, saying that he believes introductions are in order. He introduces himself as Jong-ho, Class 5's instructor, and as they have new members today, they'll skip the lecture and start with a short overview. Chul says that he still seems full of determination and enthusiasm, and in his past life, he was even instructed privately because he was having trouble keeping up. Jong-ho says that's it for the overview, telling In-ha to take charge and teach the material to the new kids. In-ha says okay, then greets everyone and introduces himself. He says he's embarrassed to say it, but he's been held back 2 times, so this is his second year as the class leader, which explains the age gap. He says they must be tired from all the standing, and they should feel free to sit down, as they're going to elect the class leader this time around. All of them may be cadets here, but they are put into missions quite often, so the class leader effectively takes the role of squad captain. Aside from the instructors who educate them and help them train, the leaders of each class are given full authority. One of the students asks how they pick the class leader, and In-ha says that he should have explained that first. He doesn't know how the other classes do it, but they always decide with light duels among themselves and vote on who the leader should be after, and then it's time for them to begin the duels. He says it's to test each other's strengths, so the use of mana is forbidden. Before he can finish his last sentence, Chul asks if he's kidding. In-ha asks if he's dissatisfied with something he said. Chul says that he's dissatisfied with everything he said and everything he's doing. He tells him to get a grip, as this is the Lee clan. If they want a roleplay school, they shouldn't have come here and gone to a normal school in the safe zone instead. In-ha says he's being too radical, and he just meant it as a more peaceful way to work this out. Chul says that he guesses he won't understand just words, and he stabs his wooden practice sword into the ground, telling them to all come up one by one, as he'll take on everybody here. After a bit, we see Chul panting, as he actually did exactly that, taking care of all the students except In-ha so far, who just sits there, speechless. Chul calls his name, which startles him, and he tells him to call up the next cadet. In-ha can't help but feel amazed, but tells him that he's the only one left, and Chul asks if that's really the case, telling him to hurry up and walk up already. As they trade blows with one another, In-ha wonders why he's going so far, as this is a duel of no reward, it's just a cadet squad, and what they're doing is a sparring match. In-ha says deep down he knows why this is being done, and he used to be as fierce as him and he wanted to win as badly before. He thought he had matured by accepting reality, but it seems as if he was just coping, as he still does truly want to win. But instead, Chul says this is over, as he swings forward, knocking In-ha's sword out of his hands. In-ha looks surprised, and then starts screaming while holding onto his wrist. Chul sighs, saying that someone should take him to the nurse, but In-ha tells him he's not done yet. He then picks up the sword with his other hand and swings down, telling Chul that it's not over. Turns out his hand is broken, and Chul says that he sure is determined and the glint in his eyes is different. But of course, the fight is already over, as Chul knocks his sword backward, he tightens the grip using both hands, and hits him straight in the stomach. In-ha starts to spit up and then falls to the floor, unconscious, as he tells the other students to go ahead and take In-ha to the nurses. He says that he lives every second as if it was an hour, and every hour as if it was a year. And everybody knows how easy life is once you start compromising. I have no idea what the hell that means. But he tells them if they don't put their life on the line at every moment, they'll end up losing everything. In order to protect himself and everything around him, Chul will continue to fight as long as he can breathe. He asks if any of them have lived their lives in that way, as this is what fighting truly is. Jong-ho tells him that he went too far, and 4 kids have broken bones, and 3 have damaged organs. As Chul is sitting there gassed out, he says if they want to survive in the Lee clan, they need to be able to bear through injuries like those. Jongho says that those children come from struggling homes, and then Chul asks if he really needs to explain it to him when even the other cadets understood. People like him are rare in the clan, and he is a good man. But those children are still part of the clan as well, and if they walk the wrong path, he should redirect them even if it means playing the villain to them, and that he has to do his job right. Jongho clenches his fist, but doesn't say anything back. The next day, as Chul enters his class, he says that he is still so sore, and he went over the top yesterday for sure, and he can already tell some of the kids are showing disdain or anger towards him. But not one of them are avoiding his gaze, and they would really be hopeless if they were as docile as yesterday, which is a relief. As he's walking by, he hears them talking shit to him, and then we hear Han greeting him. Chul says he's early, and Han says that he apologizes for showing off a sorry side to him yesterday. Chul says that they're still cadets, so it's natural to be weak. Han laughs it off, and says that he just has one question. Chul tells him to go for it, and Han asks what he should do to become as strong as he is. Chul says that he's not at a level where he's good enough to teach the others yet, but he has good eyes, or maybe it's his instincts. Han asks what he means, so Chul explains that he dodged his fake moves 3 times in a row yesterday, and he should try to use that to his advantage, as he thinks he's more of a technique guy than a strength guy. If he puts everything into perfecting what he already has, then he'll one day find that he has improved. Han thanks him, and then we hear In-ha saying hello. Chul turns to see his arm in a cast, saying that he's in such a mess, asking if he could even train in that state. In-ha asks if he would have understood if he skipped training in the first place, as he would have just told him he overreacted, and that he's here because he doesn't want to be lectured. Chul smirks, saying that Han has changed. Jongho then tells everybody to listen up. That's 4 are absent because they're injured, and 5 more absent for unknown reasons, and that means there's only 11 of them. He can tell that everybody looks tired, and the atmosphere is pretty down too. They'd been so relaxed yesterday, but now they're all tense just because of Chul. He says they were originally supposed to use this day to evaluate their basic capabilities, but seeing their conditions, he clenches his fist and says never mind, as they should go ahead and proceed with the evaluations as is. All the kids are gassed out, and he says that's it for the test, and the leader will be the one in charge of training. Chul says that it took 10 hours just for the evaluation, and he's also tired, but he can't rest. All the other students are talking about how Jongho is a bit different today, and he would usually let them all rest. They then hear Chul calling out to them all, and he says that he doesn't assume he needs to introduce himself, and that he is the class's leader. He's sure they all heard from In-ha, but the class leader holds all the authority unless the instructor says otherwise. His training will be harsh, and only those who are willing to keep up can come with him. He doesn't intend on forcing those who don't have the will, and one of the students calls him an arrogant bastard, and we are introduced to Kim Ba-zong. Chul tells them all that if they don't like him, they can request a duel with him anytime, and he'll hand over the class leader position if any of them can even get one hit on him, and he wants to go ahead and begin, having them fight the person next to them. Chul says that 6 people managed to last until the end, but the rest gave up midway through. He tells them all that's enough for today, and they are excused, and well done. All the students are just saying they can't believe they have to work like dogs because of that bastard, and they don't even like him to begin with. As they keep yapping, Han tells them to shut up, as he's frustrated with himself, and that Chul was definitely exhausted too, yet they still couldn't get a single hit in. They then ask In-ha what he thinks, as they say they were good last year, and he says that maybe this is why he flunked. They ask what he means, and he says that if he doesn't change now, he thinks he's going to end up a loser, and he wants to try with everything he has, even if his arms and legs give out. He goes to tell them they're all aware of what the illegitimate child is trying to do, but changes it to call him young master instead. He says that they should think about it, and he's going to try his best, as this is his last opportunity, so they should get their shit together and stop playing dumb. Sometime later, we hear Gyeonga telling Chul to transform it now, as we see him hooked up to a machine, as he's concentrating his mana in his hand. Gyeonga tells him to stop, saying not to do any more, and that she can't figure it out. The form continuously breaks down every time he's trying to create aura, and she didn't expect this kind of problem after he reached 3 stars, and she wishes they had some files on how people used mana in the past. Chul looks down at Boundless, saying that maybe if it's Boundless's memories, he could figure it out, but he can't look at the next memories yet, and he did have this unexpected harvest at the library, but it was enveloped in an aura, that which was the color of ink, and the other monsters feared it. We get a bit of a lore expo. He says even the bravest generals of the nation failed to defeat it, only when heroes came together were they able to seal the monster and Thousand Demons Mountain in the north, and the king awarded the heroes with thieves. The heroes were touched by the king's generosity and created a sword, which is how the Boundless came to be to begin with, and getting information on it was really helpful. She then says that he's still making steps forward on his own, saying that sure is amazing, and that she's sure he'll be able to overcome that problem soon, as he basically completed both the amplification technique and the transformation technique after all. He thanks her, and then asks what it means to attain 3 stars anyways. She says that he'll be able to use aura skills and enhanced energy, although he has a long way until he can do either of those properly. Then she asks how the training is in class as he looks tired. He sighs, saying that it's whatever, and she asks if he needs her help. He asks how, and she laughs, saying that he'll see, he just has to give her some trust. A bit later we see him realizing what she meant, as he had a bad feeling when she asked him to trust her. As Jong-ho tells everybody that today they're going to have a special lesson on mana arts, he introduces Gyeonga as an elder and a researcher of their clan. He tells everybody to give her a round of applause, and she says that's a little embarrassing, but she says that she doesn't like dragging things out, so she's going to get started immediately. Chul says she sure has gotten better at teaching, and a bit later she says that's it for the boring part, now it's time for the fun part, and she'll teach them the mana improvement method that she researched. Jong-ho asks if that wasn't it for the lesson. She says of course not, as this is just the beginning, and everybody should sit upright, and she's only going to show it to them once. We see Chul asking her what she's doing. She says that kids of the direct lineage are supported in all kinds of ways once class starts, so she thought she'd do something similar. He thanks her, and she says this is good, and theoretically this should double his mana force, asking if that's great. He says of course it is, and Jong-ho tells everybody that they'll use the mana technique she showed them and have some duels, and to choose their partners. In-ha steps forward, asking for Chul to be his partner, and he's going to warn him that he's not going to take it easy. Chul says that's what he wanted from the start, and he can have the first move. As they start trading blow for blow, Gyeonga says that he's so merciless, and she feels like she's seeing herself in him. She starts to overhear the students saying how much they dislike Chul, and he might have been discriminated against a little because he's an illegitimate son, but is entirely different from them. Physically, he's better, and if his ability has been unlocked, that means he has a major head start. They start talking about how hard they've worked, yet he doesn't know any of that. Gyeonga then calls out to him, and they're surprised that she hasn't left yet. She then asks if they're referring to her child, and corrects herself, saying her disciple. They start to get scared of her expression, and say that they're sorry for exaggerating. She asks what in the world they know for them to say stuff like that about him, and they apologize, but Ba Zong says that they're not the only ones who don't know anything, and Chul's the same. They've also worked very hard, but he would also insult them as if what they've done amounts to nothing, and that surely it's natural that they'd be different since they grew up in different environments. Gyeonga says that just means they don't really know, and Ba Zong asks what she means. Gyeonga says that it's probably better that they didn't, and if they found out just how different his life has been from theirs, they'd think of their lives as basically just playing. Ba Zong starts to get pissed, wondering why they keep treating their efforts like they were nothing, and says that he'll see how good he is himself. Chul says today's training will end here, and Ba Zong glances over at him, seeing him tired, saying that he's the same as everybody else. He might say that he's different from them, but this is what they're all born with. The other students double-check with Ba Zong that he's going to secretly follow Chul. They don't know if it's alright for them just to walk around the manor estate as they please. Ba Zong says it's fine since they're cadets, and it's not like they're going anywhere dangerous, and he also doesn't live with a legitimate family, and they have no intentions just to let him walk all over them. And they'll see how he actually lives his life today. Later that night, Ba Zong asks how many hours it's been since he entered the research lab, as it's already 9. The kids start getting sleepy, saying that they low-key just want to go home, and they don't even know what he's doing in there. Ba Zong says they gave up way too easily, but they leave anyways, and finally, Chul exits. Chul sighs, saying that he needs to hang in there. Ba Zong says it's about time he should get going home, but instead, he watches Chul head to the training hall, which is meant to be exclusive to the main clan, so he shouldn't be able to go in there, but as soon as he does, all they hear is screaming, which surprises them. Turns out he's not alone. My bad. They start asking what those sounds were, saying they might be from training. And they realize that Chul does seem to be amazing, and they should stop following him, because it seems like they were in the wrong, and they should work just as hard as he is. Ba Zong says that he doesn't skip out on training during his personal time either, so there's no difference between them. The other students don't know why he's coping this hard about it, but Ba Zong is just determined to figure out what the difference between them is, and then he'll prove that there's not any that he is aware of. As Chul exits, Ba Zong keeps a close eye and watches as he finally goes to his house. We hear a guy yelling behind Ba Zong, asking who's there. He says that he sees Ba Zong as a cadet, and he says that while Chul does walk around at this hour every day, he had no idea that he had a cadet with him. Ba Zong wonders if he really means every day, and says they had something to do together this time. The guard says that would usually be against the rules, and he should go back quickly. Ba Zong says okay, and he glances over at Chul's house, seeing that his lights are still on even though it's already 2. He turns, saying that he'll be going back then as he walks away, feeling conflicting emotions. A bit later at their classroom 3 hours later, Ba Zong says that he went back home too late. And he sits there, surprised, only to see Chul in front of him, saying that he looks tired. He's not sure if it's okay for a child like Chul to only get 3 to 4 hours of sleep. He wonders if he really is doing the best he can with his time, as any time he goes home, he's either resting, watching TV, or playing games. While he does train frequently during his personal time, he gets enough sleep, rest, and entertainment. Chul asks him what's the matter with him, and Ba Zong just questions if he's tired or not. Chul says that he guesses he's among the people who secretly followed him. Ba Zong says that's right, and he has received support from the main clan, and had a head start compared to them. Chul can tell what he's getting at, but tells him that he's lived like this ever since he was young, and that he needed to get a little more sleep before he became a cadet though. It's natural that he feels tired since he only sleeps for a few hours. Ba Zong asks why he's training to this extent, and Chul says surely he already knows the answer to that. Ba Zong thinks about it and realizes how dumb and childish he's been until now. It jumps to Taishan standing in the middle of his training area as Butler Choi calls out for him. He says that the official document regarding his request is ready. Taishan tells him to hand it over, and after skimming it, he says this is not good enough. Butler Choi tells him that these are 7th and 8th rank dungeons, which are dangerous for the cadets. Taishan says that when it comes to weapons or rations, they just need to accumulate them, and that's not the case with humans, and they must create people who are able to survive. Butler Choi says that he'll do as per his instructions, but he has one more thing to report. Taishan starts thinking about him fondly, saying that his eyes have always looked extraordinary ever since he was young, and he has the eyes of those who have had things taken from them, and they are the eyes of someone who's lived with their head lowered his entire life. But that changing people and leading them are two completely different matters, and that he wants to change the test a little bit, as Sho Hyun is also in that batch, so he wants to increase the standard of the cadets. Butler Choi says okay, and Taishan says it's time to see if he really has the potential to be a leader or not. Jong-ho then enters the classroom, and he hears a lot of the kids saying that it's not over yet, but is just surprised to see that all of the cadets are training so early in the morning even though it's the weekend. And he didn't have to come here to get them to train at all. One of the students say that they are glad he's here, and he says that he's surprised to see them all working so hard, and that they should get all of the absent cadets here as he has something to announce. He says he understands that this is a little rushed, but the first evaluation has been brought forward, so a week break will be given in advance, and consider this as their last break and rest as much as they can beforehand. He goes to tell them one last thing, but he says there's no need for him to remind them to at least do their basics during their break because they're all determined. He says he trusts that they'll do what's needed, and dismisses them saying they've done great so far. Chul says this break came out of nowhere, and the first evaluation shouldn't be this fast, and he wonders if everything is alright. He turns asking the other students if they're not leaving yet. Han says that they're waiting for him. And In-ha asks what he's going to do during his break. He says the break is their personal time, wondering why they would ask about it. They're just confused, and he says that they should just rest when it's time to rest, and he doesn't have any plans for the break. They're all surprised by this, and they can't believe he's the one saying it. Because there's no training given, they thought that he'd make them go through hell and ask for joint training. saying surely they didn't think they'd get to rest. Chul just wonders what kind of person these kids think he is. Asking if they really want to spend their entire days here during the break, and they should rest when it's time to do so, as that's important. He already knows that they won't just rest even if he tells them that anyways, and they can decide what they want to do as he'll see them all after the break. They start cheering him on for whatever reason. I literally have no idea why. And then it takes us to Gyeongha's research lab. She says that she heard he got a break, and she can't believe he's here to torture her instead of resting, as she has a mountain of research to conduct. He says that he knows that she was just looking at weird things on her phone and sighs. She asks what he means by weird, and starts talking about some kind of drama. He asks what in the hell she was watching, but changes the conversation asking if the first evaluation was moved up because of his father's orders. He says that it was an official document given by the main clan. Chul says this means this evaluation will be way harder than they think, and he needs his mana arts that have hit a wall to grow, and in order to do so, he must obtain the next memories of Boundless. The fact there are memories he can't see yet shows that he's still lacking something. He was wondering if changing a little would allow him to read the next memory, but that was not the case, and he can only keep trying to think of other solutions. He then accidentally bumps into a stack of papers causing them to fall over, and she asks what he's doing, saying that he needs to be more careful, but he tells her that it's her fault for not being tidy. As he starts picking up some of the papers, he notices one of them, and it says the main difference between ancient and modern martial art techniques would be the intentions behind them. They believe that the techniques used by humanity back then were tailored for fighting monsters. Chul says this would also be the same for the split demon, as well, as it is a pretty excessive technique. He then stands up after having a realization, and he says that he's got it, and he'll explain more later on, but he needs to go to the training hall immediately, as he runs off, leaving even more papers flying through the air. As soon as he gets there, he immediately pulls out the Boundless, saying that he needs to make up an opponent. He closes his eyes, saying that it needs to be one that's bigger than him, a beast with a different form from a human. It needs to be a huge monster, and it needs to focus on a technique that maintains efficiency and strength, but doesn't bother with avoiding or defending at all. He doesn't really care how it looks, it just needs to be destructive. That is part of the true intention behind the split demon, as he dashes forward, shattering the ground beneath him. He says the goal in the end was to cut down monsters, and he can't believe that he didn't put 2 and 2 together from the start. As he uses the split demon, I believe he's in the world of the sword right now, but he cuts the apocalypse ranked monster straight in half, and sighs after going back to reality. The training area starts to fill with dust, and he says that it actually worked, and he wonders what he's going to see this time around, as he starts to go back into the world of the sword. He looks around, recognizing it as the training hall, and that's the same as when he first obtained Boundless. He wonders why the time period is only different when he sees Boundless memories. He hears something and glances over, saying that this is the same dude he saw last time in the memories as well, and the dude is really fast. But then he's surprised by something and wonders what that is, as every time the weapon changes, the aura changes around it too. It's not like his aura is changing, rather it's more like Boundless aura is changing in itself. He then hears someone saying that he changed how he did it again, which startles Chul, but the man says that he should stop peeking at other people's trainings. The other guy who walked up on him says that he started after he got that, asking if he's named the technique. He says no, as it wasn't great enough to be called a technique to begin with. The other dude says he has a suggestion, asking how about calling it the 1,000 forms. The dude says it's not bad. And Chul hides himself behind the pillar again, as the dude asks if he brought someone else along. He says that he didn't. And immediately, the guy swings his sword as he and the other dude start clashing blades. He says that he was intending to fight him from the start, so there's no point in bringing anyone else. Chul's caught off guard by this, but recognizes something, as based on their hair and eye colors, the main descendant of the Lee clan. If you've watched till the end, comment, credit, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.